Welcome back to the Tuesday weekend. We are talking about uniforms this week, and we're going to look at back of house. We're going to look at the kitchen right now. And though actually, I guess the one kind of crossover front of house, back of house that we didn't really discuss yet is fast food. But that's really simple because most places right now, I imagine black pants. For the crew, it's probably a logo t-shirt, and the manager has either the logoed polo or the blue button down with the the
Short
logo on
sleeves,
the
yeah,
sleeve
and the tie
and the brass name
and the
tag.
brass.
That's
Yeah,
how you can tell there.
the brass nameplate, like that's his desk, and that is who he is.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
It
no
could
one else
just
has a
say
name tag on, but he does.
manager. Okay. Yeah. Um, but
I just love
that's
the short sleeve button downs
yes.
that they all seem to have for some reason. It's like fast food managers, all of them wear the short sleeve button down.
I have seen a couple other more casual kitchens like pizza joints and stuff where the cooks are in t-shirts. And well, my only thought for that as a hiker is I wouldn't wear cotton. I would wear something, like a hiking shirt, a breathable poly blend of some sort. But that's because I've spent enough time sweating in various situations.
On both sides, front and back of house, before we get into all the heavy stuff the cooks wear. Like our cooks wear the big, they have to put on the jackets and all that for no reason whatsoever. Because they're way 100 yards away from anything. Is that the undershirts and stuff. Like when you see us, like especially back when we had to wear the white shirts and stuff all the time, which was the big thing. And tattoos back then are taboo.
Oh yeah.
If you had tattoos, you have an undershirt so they wouldn't show through. And if you were sleeved, you had to wear long sleeve shirt underneath your long sleeve shirt. And before everyone goes like, that's insane. Well, this is also 20 years ago when tattoos weren't a big thing.
Yeah, but a lot of that has calmed down since.
It really has.
And it will continue.
Back then it was like, you were telling me about Mariposa, how bad they were about it? Like the girl with the tattoo on her hand or something?
Geez, yeah, who essentially had to wear gloves during service because she had a tattoo right there, but on the web of her thumb, and that they couldn't. It was cute even, but they just couldn't have that.
Even in the last 10 years, there's a lot of pushback on piercings and stuff, where like you have to take that piercing, and there's people are just like, I'm not taking my piercings out. What the hell's wrong with you?
But I will also say one of the most talented cooks that I worked with in New York, well, chefs, actually, he was chef de cuisine. Basically, the ink started here and went down. And he was a great guy. He was a good cook. He was a good mentor. He was a good leader of the kitchen. He was just a really forward-thinking, responsible person. So, if you get hung up by the visual, then sorry, you're missing out on a really good employee.
It's also this stigma of it that people are always like, there's that whole generation gap between boomers and millennials, and that's us. We're Gen X, but boomers all think, oh, if someone has a neck tattoo, they're going to stab you and kill you and rob you.
Exactly.
Or if a woman has a tattoo, she is a harlot or a strumpet. I'm using boomer words to make them feel more comfortable.
Exactly.
Whereas now, if you see someone with a neck tattoo, it's probably Josh from the coffee shop, and he's going to go to the poetry slam that night and just knock it out of the park.
Right.
It's the way that people are treated because of the tattoos, and like especially in the service industry, you see older guests when they see someone with tattoos, they're like, "What? Why is that guy? I don't know about the guy with the tattoos making my drinks or something." It's like, let it go.
And likewise, I also am really hesitant to make any kind of assumptions about guests who are tattooed heavily too, because, well, you know what? If they had the money for all that ink, maybe they're not terrible tippers either.
No, I have, like, for example, back in Salt Lake, right around that picture time, when I was working at that restaurant, I had some regular guests come in, and they had a friend coming to meet him, and he came in, and he's a big guy, actually a little bigger than me, and he was tatted up to the neck and stuff, and all the way down. Now, mind you, this is like 1999. That was not a common thing back then at all. Like, not even close. You didn't really see a lot of people like that unless they were bikers or, that's kind of just how it went. Well, he owned a tattoo shop. He owns 3 tattoo shops. They're called Big Deluxe Tattoo. And he sat down and was like, "How you doing, sir? What can I get you?" And he's just like, "I got a Budweiser to start with." I'm like, "Yeah, you're a little late to the party, so let me grab you a menu. You can order And he was shocked that I was like, I'm still friends with the guy. He was shocked that I was just, he's like, he's like, every place I go, people ask me questions, ask me if I'm in the right place. I mean, the guy's a multimillionaire, great guy, has tattoos, and he had them before they were popular, and people just would always give him shit because of the tattoos.
Sure.
You know, and he just blow it off. He's like, yeah, I don't really care. He's like, but you actually treated me normally where most people don't. And that was
Yeah,
again
exactly.
20 years ago, where now you wouldn't even bat an eye if someone sits down sleep
Yeah,
at a restaurant. He's like, hey, how you doing, man? What's up?
right,
You know,
exactly.
you don't care.
Nope, nope, and nor should you. Um, but getting to the chef coat in
Yeah.
particular, first of all, it is especially most of them are the double-breasted design. So you can, if you spill something on yourself, you can unbutton it, flip it over, rebutton it, and now you have a clean surface. And that's kind of cool.
Didn't know
Not a
that.
lot of people use that feature, but it's there. But that also is, if you spill something, another layer of protection against, that hot liquid, let's assume, and you. But also, the thing I sincerely miss the most about wearing a chef coat every day is having a pen and a Sharpie here on my arm at all times. Like, I never had to reach into a pocket for a pen or wonder if I had one on me. It was just always right there.
That is the one nice thing about aprons, front of the house as well, because I have to wear an apron again, but I always have a pen on me now if I need one.
Yeah.
Where
Yep.
a lot of times before I'm like, they're all right there in a glass that I have to go grab one and come back. So you've got the chef's coat. I mean, now how did like open kitchens, which became super huge in the last 15 years, how did that change how kitchen dressed?
Well, some of them already were, like everyone is dressed in the classic French, with
Mhm.
probably the neckerchief even,
Yeah.
and if not the toque, and we'll get back to headwear in a second, but at least the nice white classic, kind of floppy French
Yeah.
hat. I'm trying to think of because the first kitchen I worked at in New York, really, it was a very small restaurant, I think 32 seats with 6 at the bar, and the kitchen was at the end of the dining room. There's no place for us to hide, so we had to look nice. But
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure it was just a regular chef coat and then uh, a black skull cap. But it also, part of it, I feel, is some of the um, yelling that happened in former kitchens. You cannot get away with if you're doing it in front of the audience of the dining room.
No,
So maybe,
that used to be the safe place for the front of the house where you could go into the kitchen and just lose your shit because the table's being so horrible. And now there is nowhere to go. You're just like working
you,
at the roast bar again, had a table being horrible. Basically, they ordered lobster. We didn't have lobster because one of them was bad. So, they turn to kind of shampoo.
uh,
And the guy insisted, oh, we'll eat that. And I'm like, I can't serve that to you. It will kill you. You can't have that. Tell you what, I'm going to give you both like a pound and a half king crab legs instead. That's like, $80 each. And the guy was still like, well, I don't see why we should have to pay for any of this at all. And when I went back, I hit the window going into the kitchen and it's safety glass and I broke it.
yeah.
Like without rings or anything, just like all the cooks look over and they're like, oh,
Oh,
he's
yeah,
mad.
right.
Like, yeah, I miss going into the kitchen and just getting away. The servers are back there talking about all their tables.
All their tables.
Yeah, yeah, see that table right there? Yeah, this is what that guy's doing right now because you can't do that anymore.
I mean, I have definitely, from the kitchen side, seen that ticket print up with all the modifications in it. And sometimes the server comes back sheepishly, like, sorry, guys. And sometimes they come back and like, exactly who's sitting at that. It's
Yeah,
just like, yep, I can tell who, like, exact kind of person that you have at that table right now in seat 3. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I do this. I'm like, hey, I'll go to the kitchen because this one's closed. Actually, I just like, hey, this guy's an asshole. I'm sorry.
Yep. Yeah. Sure.
It's like I had the guy last week who had celiac, which I'm like, fine. And so for 3 nights in a row, he orders a club sandwich,
Mhm.
no bread, and I'm like, so you're just trying to pick the hardest thing to make non-celiac for our kitchen.
Just a
Cool.
pile of
And
toppings. You know,
it's like
that
a salad.
reminds me, at one point at the Boneyard, I was running a Cuban sandwich special. And for those who don't know, a Cuban sandwich is traditionally pressed. And he ordered the Cuban with no bread. It's like, so I'm putting just, I mean, I just threw it on the flat top and I mean, obviously cook the meat, but also like I can't press the cheese that's just gonna get my
You
thing
can't
all
make it.
gooey. I can't, yeah. Like what am I supposed to do? Where do I put the mustard on this? Well, I mean, really I
And
garnish it
I
on
mean,
top.
and that also reminds
But
me of being back in the kitchen. What is up with Crocs? I
with Crocs, well, okay,
mean,
there are
almost every cook I know wears them.
it's defenders say they're comfortable. I prefer Birkenstocks, but because the issue with a shoe with holes in it, sure it breathes, but again, let's get back to that hot liquid you just spilled on yourself,
Yeah.
which there are plenty of times that I would spill a hot liquid and look down and go, "Oh no," and take a towel and wipe my shoe off and everything's fine because it didn't seep through the holes and burn my foot.
Yeah.
And I have seen people with foot burns before from basically, hot liquid. And I mean, I also years and years ago was cooking bacon at home. These days, I always bake my bacon. I don't cook it on
That's
on
why
the
it's called
stovetop.
bacon.
That's got yes. It also is way more consistent when it comes out as long as you don't burn it. Um, but I could even watch this globule of fat jumped out of the pan and landed right in the middle of my bare foot. And it looked like stigmata because it was just like right in the middle. Yeah. Anyway, all right, that's a joke for the Catholics out there. Anyway,
Ah,
okay, let me get back to hats really quickly
okay.
too. Um, because I do want to make fun of the classic chef toque. And it's something I think it is 42 folds in the classic French toque, and each of them represents a different way to cook eggs. And once you have mastered every way there is to cook eggs, then you're truly a chef. Or that's the myth that surrounds it anyway. Whatever. They're kind of ridiculous. I in culinary school, was part of the uniform. I will say they do keep your hair up very nicely.
Yeah.
Sure. Yes, indeed. Even if you have a lot of hair, you could kind of put quite a bit of volume in there. So for all the, ladies in the kitchen, maybe think about that. But also, I a couple of the other places I've worked, kind of as a matter of prestige, the chef de cuisine and the chef would have the toques and everyone else has the floppy hats. That's fine. The floppy hats are just fine. Ultimately, hats in the kitchen serve two purposes, and that is restraining your hair and absorbing sweat,
Yeah.
because both of them need to happen. I have not seen a single, I was even thinking about a raw food vegan kitchen. That might be the one where you're not just sweating your ass off, for 6 hours of service. I'm not sure. You're still running around. Anyway, but what I personally kind of prefer is the skull cap. I mean, now sure, one of the kitchens in New York, we could all wear ball caps, and yeah, there were a couple Mets hats and a Yankees hat on the line. I had my Cubs hat on because I had to represent, of course.
Yeah.
But I really like the skull cap because there's not the brim to get either dirty or in your way. I've also
Yeah,
seen,
a lot of guys and girls here wear those.
yeah,
I see them a
I
lot. I see those
I've
really a
also
lot.
I've seen more recently, and it was kind of cool. I've got no better description for it, but a brimless trucker's cap.
Mhm.
So it had basically like the thing in front and the mesh behind it, and it's like, oh, okay, sure. Still very breathable, keeps the hair back. Cool. At a minimum, wear a neckerchief, but
See,
you
front
got to
of the
wear
house,
something.
and this is more bar than anything else for headwear and stuff. You can wear baseball hats and stuff working in bars, not so much restaurants, but bars and things like that. And no one will really care. Uh, I was talking to a friend of mine last night, and he's like, you come in sometimes, you just don't want to really talk to anybody. You just want to get through the shift and go home. And I'm like, yeah,
Mhm.
that's called a baseball hat, dude. And he's like, what? And I'm like, wear a baseball hat. Just look down when you make your drinks. Don't make eye contact. Use the brim to block eye contact with people, and people won't talk to you. It's like putting up a little shield.
Yep.
I mean,
Sure.
anytime you see me in work and I'm wearing a baseball hat, that usually means I don't want to talk to anybody that night.
Fair enough.
And also, when we were talking about the footwear stuff, there's the non-slip footwear, which cooks always do all anyway, but
Right.
servers are really bad at it.
They
I mean, one
are.
thing, if I could tell anybody out there, if you are in this industry and you are working in the front of the house, spend money on good shoes.
Yes.
Don't mess your feet up. Don't mess your legs
Absolutely.
up. Like if you buy new shoes and after you break them in, your feet hurt like the next week, go get new shoes.
Go get new
And
shoes.
also
Right.
do the non-slip thing. I mean, I wear Docs. I've almost always worn Doc Martens when I work behind a bar and work in a restaurant, just because they're black. They last forever if you take care of them, and they're non-slip. The non-slip thing really is, I've worn the wrong shoes to work. Like I forgot to change shoes once, and it was like being on a skating rink. It was horrible. I mean, I was kind of a little afraid carrying trays and stuff.
We could potentially even do a full episode on footwear, because I've, of course, what I wear in the kitchen, which was largely Birkenstocks or Merrells, I can't, as the manager, I can't wear that out on the floor. But again, I want dressier shoes, but still I'm going to be on those same surfaces that all the cooks are. And so if they want non-slip shoes, I do too. So, but that's a really good point.
And for a while, I did actually buy like nicer non-slip shoes and stuff when I worked in some different places. But at the end of the day, they lasted 6 months.
Oh, sure.
I mean, like the soles are going and everything. I just burned through
them. That is ultimately why I stopped buying Merrells. Is I felt like I was just burning through pair after pair.
That's why I like Doc so much, because they last. My last pair lasted 3 years.
Sure.
And the only reason I got rid of them was because the tops finally started wearing out a little bit. Like I said, if you take care of them, they last for a long time.
There you
go. Yeah, the footwear thing, and I've seen hostesses. Sometimes hostesses will wear heels and stuff, which is great, but you got to remember that's pretty dangerous in a restaurant, because the floors are usually, someone drops some butter, someone spills something.
Right.
It's like I had a lady at a seafood place. And I was slipping around because this lady spilled drawn butter on the floor.
Oh, geez.
And we literally, we couldn't really do it during service. So as soon as it was over, I told the busser, he's like, I'm going to mop that up. I'm like, no, dude, just go get a whole bunch of salt to absorb it.
And I was about to say, here's the industry secret for those who don't know, is you grab that box of kosher salt and you get, and kosher salt, because it actually gives the most, grit, essentially the most traction, and you let it absorb that and you sweep it up.
Yep.
And
as soon as they left, I walked over with the box from behind the bar and just
in the kitchen you do that immediately. In the dining room it's tough, but also try not to track it all over, because it will get on the bottom of your shoe and then somebody else can slip on your footprint.
Yeah, exactly. And we had stairs. So
fun.
Yeah. So I mean, and she did it twice. She literally spilled it again. I'm watching her eat and just spills it on the floor again. I'm like, the hell is wrong with this woman? She's like, oh, I spilled my butter again. And I'm like, yeah, great. We've seen that this is like part 2. But and again, that's one of the fun things about uniforms, is trying to keep them clean.
I'll keep them clean. Yeah. We'll take one more quick break here, and then we will get back and have more to talk about uniforms.